Welcome back, Voyagers! It's time to bring our Koda to life with a little animation magic. Head over to launch.otherside.xyz to grab your Blender file to follow along. Let's go! In order to get a working file for Mixamo, we need to have the correct setup with our 3D file before importing. So let's open up our Blender file and do that now. Before we begin, let's turn on the material preview in our viewport so we can see all the detail on our Koda. Second, I'm going to hide my Koda's weapon. This can be added later if needed, but for the sake of this animation tutorial, let's focus on the Koda first. Head over to the outliner on the right and minimize folders or scroll down as needed till you find the root folder. Click the drop down arrow to reveal the contents of your Koda. Now let's select the geometry that makes up your Koda's body. These are marked with an orange triangle. When I click on one, I can see the corresponding mesh become selected in the viewports to the left. Depending on your Koda's body style, you may have more or less of these meshes listed in the outliner, so make sure to select all of them. Click on one, hold shift, and click on the rest to select them all. With the file selected, go to File, Export, and select FBX. Now let's make sure our textures go along with our file. Go to where it says Path Mode and set it to Copy. Now click the Embed Textures button on the right to enable it. Now let's check the Selected Objects option to make sure we're taking only the selected meshes and their materials and no other information. Go down to the bottom and click Export FBX to get our file. Log into your Mixamo account or create one if you haven't yet to take advantage of this awesome tool to quickly level up your models. Once you're logged in, head over to the right and click on Upload Character. Once the upload prompt appears, go over to your folder with your exported FBX file and drag and drop that into the bounding box. Wait for a few minutes for it to load. Mixamo sometimes has issues with certain material types and might not load everything in correctly. I noticed here that the rings around the Koda's body were not a shiny purple like in my Blender file. If you encounter a similar issue, don't worry. This will take some manual adjusting, but we can take care of this in Blender after we get our animated Koda file. So let's keep pushing forward and click next to begin the auto rigging process. On the left are a series of circular markers to help the auto rig identify parts of the Koda model. Just click and drag the nodes onto the appropriate parts of the body. Make sure to grab the left nodes and place them on the left side. Mixamo will mirror the node you place for the right side so you don't have to do any guesswork here. Use the magnified window on the top right to align your points to the body. Make sure you're aligned both vertically and horizontally to get the best effect from the auto rig. Click next and wait a few minutes while Mixamo does the rest. Once it's done, you'll be shown a preview. If you aren't happy with the results or you accidentally misaligned something, you can go back and try again. If all looks good, go ahead and click the next button. Take your time to inspect all of the animations and find one that fits your vibe. There is a search function at the top to find something in particular, or you can just scroll through the pages and see everything at once. Something to consider is the unique shape of Kodas. Some animations just might not work perfectly and will need custom adjustment. Most animations have a variety of parameters you can adjust to tweak the rig. For instance, in this one, the arms were set a little too close to the body. I adjusted the character arm space parameter, and that helped to get things a bit more aligned to the proportions that I wanted. Alright, you know what? This animation's speaking to me right now. I went ahead and made some adjustments, so I think I'm ready to export. Go ahead and click the download button at the top right. You can leave the download settings as is or adjust the frames per second if you need to. Other than that, hit the download button and save your file in a safe location. Let's head back to your original Blender file. Before we import our new animated Koda file, let's hide our existing Koda in the scene so it doesn't end up in our render. Click the eye and camera icon next to the rig, the root, as well as the meshes of your Koda. With a clean work area, let's import our new animated FBX file into our Blender scene. Head to File, Import, FBX, and select your new Mixamo FBX file. With our Koda in the scene, let's go ahead and play test our new animation. Press the forward arrow down at the bottom to give it a shot. Looking good. Press the pause button at the bottom to stop it. If you had any issues with your textures and are still experiencing problems, we can try and remedy the situation here. Each Koda is unique in color and design, making a one-size-fits-all solution challenging. However, by sharing my situation here, we might find a solution that's similar that could help address your problem as well. Let's give it a shot. Our new animated Koda can be found under the armature folder, and just underneath we can still see the root and weapon folder for our original Koda. Click the down arrow on the armature folder to reveal its content to inspect a little closer. We could see a face, body, head, and finally an upper gunk thread mesh. With that mesh selected in the outliner, we could see it highlighted in the viewport. Now we know which mesh is the affected one. Let's compare that to our original Koda material. Click the down arrow on the root folder and select the matching mesh. Let's investigate the material for this mesh by selecting the material properties in the navigation bar down below. Now let's look at the current active material for this mesh. We can see the shiny purple color that I am missing. Let's try and locate and apply this material to our new mesh. Head back to our animated Koda and select the affected mesh. Now let's try and add in the right material to replace it. Click on the plus icon on the right to add in a new material index in the window. Then click on the small material icon to browse some existing materials in our project. We can see right away the correct purple material that we need. I'll go ahead and select it to add it to our material index window. Finally, I'm going to remove this broken material from our mesh by selecting it in the material index window and clicking the minus icon on the right. Now we can see the correct purple color and our Koda is ready for the spotlight. Before we place our camera in the scene, let's go through some movement shortcuts so we can get around a little easier. Use the middle mouse button to rotate around your Koda, shift and middle mouse button to track left and right, and use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. Now let's add a camera into our scene. Click on Add up at the top left and select Camera from the drop-down menu to add it into our scene. Remember to zoom out and rotate so you can comfortably place the camera in a better location. Click on the move icon on the far left of the screen to bring up the directional axis on our camera. Click and hold on the green axis and drag away from the Koda. Rotate, track, and zoom around your scene to place this in a decent position. To make sure you have a good view of your Koda, click on the camera icon on the right side of the viewport. This puts us directly inside the camera's view and is what we'll see when we render. Click on the icon again to back out of it and further adjust your camera if needed. Now let's head back into our camera view and take a look at some properties that we can adjust. Go to the outliner on the right and click on the green camera icon on the camera object. This brings up the camera properties down at the bottom right. You can see things like depth of field, focal lengths, and a variety of other controls and parameters. Finally, select the Output Properties tab on the navigation bar and set your image size and your image type here for your final render. Press the camera icon on the viewport again to exit the camera mode. Now that you've seen the view and you've adjusted the camera as needed, let's add a background and some lighting for our render. Go back to the Add button at the top left, highlight the Mesh category and select Plane. Now select the Rotation tool on the left side just under the Move tool. Hold Ctrl and rotate the object around 90 degrees so we can use it as a background. Then select the Move tool to move it back behind our Koda. Now select the Scale tool just under the Rotation tool and scale the plane in the Z and Y axis to stretch it out across the background. Let's add some color to our background mesh now. With our plane mesh selected, head down to the Properties panel on the bottom right and select the Material Properties tab. Click on the New button to create a blank material. In the Material Properties, click on the base color block to bring up the color wheel and select the color that works for your scene. Let's go back to the Add button and highlight the Light category. Select Area Light to add it into our scene. Do the same as the background plane and rotate and move the light to the side of the Koda or to your own desired location. I'm going to add in a second light to really brighten my scene on all sides. For more control of your lighting, you can find some properties on the right side panel to brighten and change the color of your light. Okay, I think we're ready for our render now. If you want to render a single pose from this animation, drag the blue marker on the timeline down at the bottom of the screen. Leave the marker on the frame you would like to see rendered. Then head over to the Render drop-down button at the top of the screen and select Render Image. At the top of the render window, click on the Image drop-down menu button to save your file in a safe location. If you're not quite happy with the outcome of your image, feel free to go back and make some adjustments. I felt my image was too dark, so I went ahead and increased the size and brightness of my lights and added a third light too, plus a few color adjustments as well. If you would rather export a video, then go back to the Output Properties at the bottom right, scroll down to Frame Range, and set the N number of your animation. This pertains to the animation's length. To find this, let's select the Armature folder with our Koda in the outliner on the top right, then head down to the timeline at the bottom of the screen. Click on the View button and select Frame All. This displays all the keyframes of your Koda's animation. Let's locate the last and final frame with our blue marker. This will be our frame length. I'll go ahead and input this number in the frame range and location. Let's scroll down a bit to output. Click on the folder icon next to the blank box here to select the save location for your video. Give it a name and click accept. Now click on the file format drop-down menu and click FFmpeg video. Go down to encoding and click on it to expand more options. Click on the container drop-down menu and select MPEG-4. The video codec here should be set to H.264. And finally, set the output quality. If you have a lower end system or a complex scene, lower the setting down. Then head over to render at the top left of the screen and select render animation. A window will pop up to show your progress, and once it's done, it will automatically send a copy to the file location you set earlier. So let's give it a few moments for it to render out. And there we have it. Great work, Voyagers. Together we converted our Koda's FBX file, exported an animated Koda from Mixamo, did some troubleshooting with our materials, created some meshes and lighting, and we rendered out images and videos. That's a lot to cover in one day, so I congratulate your 3D journey this far. Please share your footage with me in the comments if you're able to animate your Koda. Would love to see how yours turned out or how you expanded on it as well. Stay creative, Voyagers, and I'll catch you in the next vid.